All right, welcome to the Roundtable Ravens podcast, the first episode. I am your host, James Brizuela, and with me each week is my co-host, writer extraordinaire, longtime Ravens fan, Billie Melissa. How are you?
A writer extraordinaire, I'll take that.
We've known each other now for a little
Okay,
long.
yeah.
Yeah, doing some
Yeah.
work together. And I was like, you're a big Ravens fan. I got to get you on this pod with me. Let's just jump right into it. We have a lot to cover on this first
hmm
episode. Obviously, we're in the tail end of the season. The Ravens got a whole lot going on in terms of their playoff picture, what can't happen. But let's just jump right into a game recap and talk about what we liked, what we didn't like with this Bengals matchup. Obviously, it was a shutout win, which I think was huge for this team because they
Yeah.
haven't had a shutout win since 2018 against the Tennessee Titans. But it was a dominant win. It was a dominant win against a divisional opponent that can be dangerous at any time, regardless of the Bengals' record. We know how Joe Burrow is. We know what he can do. And quite frankly, he did do what he normally does. He was carving up the secondary there in like the first quarter. Through to the second quarter, I was getting a little worried, but they pulled it off. The defense tightened up. Everything seemed to go the Ravens' way.
Yeah. I mean, it was a nice like respite after that horrible. I was there for that other game, the Bengals out and it was freezing cold in Baltimore and it was just a rough night. And there was like one guy behind me, 2 rows, who was a Bengals fan that was just like terrorizing the Ravens fan. So I was thinking of him the whole time. I was like, this is great. I hope this guy is freezing out in in Cincinnati right now, having the worst time. So on a selfish level, I enjoyed every second of it.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, yeah, like the biggest thing that has been the hugest drawback for me with the Ravens team this year is their inability to start fast. For some very odd reason, the first quarter comes and goes, and they have 3 points, maybe a touchdown, but not really a touchdown. And that's exactly what happened in this game as well, which is a concern because even though I did say that the Bengals are a divisional opponent, they can be dangerous. Starting that slow against other opponents isn't going to go their way. They need to find a way to score early and often and keep that going so they can keep pace. Like when they played the Pittsburgh Steelers, obviously you saw that they lost the lead. And after that, it was pretty much over. Like Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers found their groove, and the Ravens just couldn't keep up with them.
It's been a theme, I think, for quite a while. I think that we've had that. We're a slow start. We come out, we just make some bizarre mistakes. But it's like, I think it's like kicking us in the butt this year. Like, I think we're really seeing it throughout the season. Whereas, like, we're usually quite good at picking up quite quickly. It will take like a couple drives and then like we're in the flow. Yeah, it's this year. It's definitely stood out way more. I don't know if that's injuries. I don't know if that's Lamar. I don't know. It's definitely giving me a hard time every week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first quarter they had their first two drives, punt, and then it was an interception, and then they had their touchdown with the last few minutes of the second quarter. I mean, again, like you can go back and forth defensively against most opponents, but with these upper echelon AFC teams, like they're not going to be able to just start slow and then catch back up. Obviously, we saw that with the Steelers game, but it's going to be even worse with their upcoming opponents. You got the New England Patriots and you got the Green Bay Packers, who they hit the gas early and they don't stop. So the only
Yeah.
way the Ravens are going to be able to keep up with those two opponents and the Steelers again, obviously in the final game, is to get the run game going. Like we saw that with Derrick Henry. They got him going early on and they leaned on him, which obviously it did wonders. He got a 100-yard game. I don't understand what happened with the Steelers. Obviously, the Steelers have a really good run defense, but still, regardless, like you got to get the ball to Derrick Henry and just let him do his thing.
Yeah, I notice often that like when the run's working for some reason, Munkin decides to just pull up and he just like starts experimenting, getting a bit strange, like throwing ball. And I'm like, I don't know. I feel like we break away so quickly from what's working. It's really frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. And that I mean that's been kind of the thing with a lot of teams that have a good run game is that like they'll lean on the run in the first quarter, second quarter maybe, and then they're like, okay, like we have the space to kind of like throw the ball around, which obviously you do with Lamar Jackson. Like he can gun the ball downfield. There's plenty of weapons to do that with, but if the run is working, just lean on the run. I mean, you can bully a team down by just getting, even if it's like 3 or 4 yards each down, you're still moving the chains enough for like a little dink and dunk pass. Plus, there's plenty of yak monsters on the Ravens team, so why not just do that, you know?
Yeah, and what I did love about this week's game was seeing a little bit more Keaton Mitchell. I've been a massive fan of him since his like first preseason game. Love watching him play. I think he's amazing. Was so sad when he went down with the injury for the season. And I'm excited that unfortunately, Justice Hill's been injured, so it's been given him a platform to show more. And I think this game and even the game before, he's had some like real breakout runs. And I'd love to see us like keep leaning on him. I don't know why we keep chucking Ali in. I don't necessarily think he's the best way, but I want to see over the next few weeks like Keaton, Henry over and over and over again and see how that pays off.
Yeah, I mean, Ollie did have that kind of like shovel pass type touchdown, which was fantastic. But yeah, you're right. Keaton Mitchell, he had like a 35-yard run the
Yeah.
game before. He did get hurt, but they brought him back like 8 carries, 66 yards, 8.3 yards per carry average. Like he's getting out there and he's getting after it. So again, you put him together like you just said with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson starting to open up a little bit more on his runs. And it's working really well, and they need to keep doing that, especially with these teams that they got coming up. But speaking of the team itself and the injuries with Keaton Mitchell, we do have some other injuries to talk about that happened in the Bengals game. The first is Teddy Buchanan unfortunately tore his ACL. It's such a brutal loss because he was having such a wonderful year.
I always love seeing when a guy comes up in the fourth or fifth round, like likely was the same, like nice surprises that you just, they're guys that you don't necessarily expect to be the breakouts or necessarily expect to get a lot of starts. And I've loved watching him play. He throws everything into it. Like, I don't know, he's been like a real difference maker on our team. And I think that his like loss is going to be sorely missed. I know he went down like early in the first or like late in the first quarter into the beginning of the second quarter. And the defense, held up and did fine without him, but it doesn't change the fact that like he can really sometimes just make the plays that other people aren't making. And so I'm nervous as a Ravens fan to see how that pans out.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a really big bummer because you look at his production, he had 93 tackles on the year, which is second behind Roquan Smith, and it was also 43rd in the NFL. That's huge for a rookie defender. Like he was really putting together a Defensive Rookie of the Year nomination with how well he's been playing, half a sack as well. Obviously, more sacks would have been great, but like the fact that he had that much production, and it sucks that it was a punt return. Like he was on special teams. Not that I mean getting hurt, what nobody wants to see him get hurt, but to
Hmm.
get hurt on a punt return is kind of like, oh man, that sucks. He went down with a non-contact
Yeah.
injury, and then the cart came out, and I was like, well, this isn't good. The cart coming out is never a good sign, but then come to find out that
Hate to see the cart coming out.
the initial reports was like it could be an ACL, but they didn't know what was going on, and then yesterday morning on Tuesday. Um, John Harbaugh confirmed that it's a torn ACL. And it really sucks because the ACL injuries, I'm not a doctor, so don't quote me on this, but usually ACL injuries take a year to recover from, but sometimes they take more than that.
Yeah.
So there's a really strong possibility that Teddy Buchanan might not even come back until the 2027 season, which would really suck. But he is a rookie. His football body's a lot younger than, like Micah Parsons or Patrick Mahomes, who also tore their ACLs, which
Mm.
is terrible. But maybe there's a chance that he can recover and come back a little bit earlier on schedule. But these ACLs are never good.
Nah, I hate to see an ACL, but I heard Harbaugh say in a press conference that he's hoping he'll be back for training camp. I think that's optimistic, but I'm willing it into existence. I'm hoping that, he can come back and hit from week one next season.
That would be huge. I mean, even if he can't come back in training camp, but if he can come back for week one, that would be huge. That gives him like what, 8-ish months or so, 8, 9 months ish to
Yeah.
fully heal, which is it's doable, I guess. I don't know, but ACLs are just, ACLs are not like Achilles. Achilles is like 6-ish months and players come
Yeah.
back. So, I mean like Ardarius, he had an Achilles in May and he just came back. So that was like 8 months of recovery. Anyway, ACL suck. It sucks for Teddy Buchanan. He's put together a wonderful season thus far. It's a really big loss for the Ravens defense, especially such a young upstart, a rookie dynamo that was already carving a rollout for himself on this defense. It really, really sucks. On the offensive side of the ball, there's a big scare there with Ronnie Stanley. He came out of the game, I believe it was in the third quarter, and Harbaugh was like, it looks okay. It didn't look okay. He jogged off the field and he was limping and they didn't put him back in. So, yeah, that's another big loss if he is to potentially be out for this week. But Harbaugh did say in his presser that he's just said he's bruised and there's optimism that he will play on Sunday.
Yeah, Harbs loves a vague comment that doesn't necessarily always give too much away. As a Ravens fan, terrified if we don't have Ronnie Stanley there. I think he's really holding up that O line. I'm just gonna believe Harbaugh, hope for the best, hope that he's back, especially this week with, we really can't afford to lose any games from here out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and another big one, Chidobe Awuzie also got hurt. He injured his
Yeah,
foot
that hurt.
after a really big play against Mike Gesicki. It was a wonderful play and really good pass defense and whatnot, but he got his like cleat like tangled, and
I know.
it didn't look good. But the only update that Harbaugh gave on Awuzie was that it's not a Liz Frank injury, which is good because those are the ones that kind of sideline players for like multiple weeks at a time, which if that were the case, he probably wouldn't have been back in the regular season.
Yeah. No, same situation really. It's just like, and it's hard to know when you don't really exactly know what's going on, like what the situation is, because sometimes Harv's likes to be vague to like kind of throw people off. Sometimes he actually means what he's saying. Again, he's been such a big part of that defense this season. I think he's been like in and out, and every time that I've seen him be put in, I thought he's just made such a difference.
Absolutely. I mean, plus he opens up Kyle Hamilton and he opens up Marlon Humphrey as well. Him being on the field, like them three together, like they're just so dynamic together. I mean, it would really suck if a Woozy can't make it, but obviously the injury reports are going to start coming out today on Wednesday and then through the week. So we'll kind of see where all three of them are. Those two are at. Obviously, Buchanan's out for the remainder of the season, but there's optimism from Harbaugh. I think more so on Stanley being ready, but I don't know on Awuzie. Awuzie's foot did look pretty bad from the initial
Yeah.
replay. So I don't know. He may or may not be able to make the game, but getting Ronnie Stanley back out there would obviously be very important because he needs to protect Lamar Jackson.
Someone's got to protect Lamar Jackson this
Right,
season.
right. Speaking of that, speaking of the opponents coming up, we've been talking a little bit here and there about, the Ravens and them needing to win out. They're in that really kind of crappy area where they do need to win out to win the division to go to the playoffs. The interesting thing is the way that the AFC is currently stacked. Like the Ravens don't need to win out, but if they don't, they're going to need a hell of a lot of help to get into the playoffs. But things can change, people can lose, places can get shuffled around. It's just right now that they do need to win out. Like if they win all three games, and if the Steelers win their first two games, then they meet Week 18 for the division crown, which obviously would be incredibly dramatic. And the Steelers just beat them, so for the Ravens to beat the Steelers in the final game to go to the playoffs would be pretty intense.
I would love it, and I would love to do it in their backyard, and I'd love to send all of the Pittsburgh fans home with their tails between them. Because I mean, Lord knows they've done it to us a few times.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pulling up the current playoff picture right now, which doesn't seem to be loading. That's great. Let's see. I know the Ravens were I believe they were in the ninth seed last time I looked. Let's see. Yeah. So right
The summer
now,
in the hunt.
yeah, so the only two teams in the hunt right now are the Colts and the Ravens. The Ravens are 7-7, obviously. The Colts are 8-6. And then in the final three, or in the only three wild card spots, you have the 9-5 Texans, you have the 10-4 Buffalo Bills, and then you have the 10-4 Los Angeles Chargers. Um, the Colts, there's a good chance that they may lose on Sunday because they're playing the San Francisco 49ers, in which case, if the Ravens win, the Colts lose. they jump into the eighth seed, which is great. But then you got the Texans 9-5. They're playing the Las Vegas Raiders. Probably not going to be a whole lot of help there. The Raiders are not a good team. They're just getting steamrolled by pretty much every opponent, and the Texans have been
Hmm.
on a tear. So there's not going to be a lot of help in week 16 for the Ravens. But the only thing that they can guarantee is they need to win. They need to win against the Patriots to keep going, which I think they do have a good shot at doing. The Patriots obviously are a very dangerous team, but they've also played a lot of like kind of questionable opponents in their winning streak. So, you know, maybe.
Yeah, their schedule's been, what it is after years and years of misery for Patriots fans. Ours has definitely been a lot harder. I feel confident. It's in our backyard, it's at the bank. Fans are going to be out. I think. I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good against the Patriots. Even though that I know that I have no right to, considering their record against ours. I don't know. I think we can put up a win against them.
Yeah, so their last six opponents, they beat the Falcons, beat the Buccaneers, beat the Jets, Bengals, Giants, and then they lost to the Buffalo Bills. So obviously, like the Buccaneers are a competitive team, but Falcons are and they barely beat the Falcons 24-23. Then you got the Bengals and the Giants and the Jets. All three of those teams are again, they're not really good teams. So you can't really, I don't know, like the Patriots, your schedule is your schedule. I'll say that. The Patriots having whatever schedule they have, that's what they got. But at the same time, I don't want to say that they're a fraud team by any means because obviously they're winning games and they're doing their job. But it's been a lot of like kind of not competitive teams in the grand scheme of things. So, they played the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are a tough team. They lost to the Bills. And the Ravens are a tough team, regardless of them being 7-7, regardless of the kind of up and down, record that they've had, the up and down losses. They're still a tough team. So I think it's going to be a very good game. And I think the Ravens need to do what they did against the Bengals, and that's to lean on the run game. The Patriots do have a good run defense, but it's not the best. They rank somewhere in the 10th, which is obviously still good, but it's not the very best. So if the Ravens can lean on Keaton Mitchell, they can lean on Derrick Henry, and also the design runs for Lamar Jackson. Like I said, it seems like he's starting to come alive a little bit and being able to run. I was afraid that his hamstring injury had stopped that completely, but over the last 2 weeks, he's shown that he can still run the ball. So I think they just need to do that. They need to lean on that run game and then get those over the middle yak yards as well. I think it's going to be a very good game. I think it's going to be very close. But the again, the way that I see this working out is the Ravens have to score first and they have to keep going. They can't take the foot off the gas and they can't go an entire quarter without at least 3 points. They have to put some points on the board.
Yeah, definitely. I think also just like not making any silly mistakes. I think that the best phrase to sum up the Ravens is the only team that can beat the Ravens is themselves. I think we do that year after year. We drop the ball, we'd make silly mistakes. There's a couple at the beginning of the season, like Henry fumbling a couple times. I think Lamar had one. I think it's just going to be taking care of the ball, making sure that we don't give it over to them. Drake May can score. They put up a great amount of points. I think as long as we can keep them off the field, we should be able, and keep control of the game. I think we can win it.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously there's been, I don't want to be that person, but I'm just gonna say it. Officiating this year has been pretty crappy as
Oh,
opposed to like
terrible.
right. So I don't want to be like, oh, it's all bad. But I mean, obviously the Isaiah Likely touchdown that was overturned was horseshit
Don't
in
get
my
me
opinion.
started on that.
It was really bad in my opinion. And then the Travis Jones personal foul was not, even the league told Harbaugh that that wasn't the right call. But anyway, so that's the thing though, is the Ravens cannot leave that into the officiating officials' hands. Obviously, you gotta go go go. And I think again, leaning on the run, give that ball to Derrick Henry, let him bully ball his way to those 4 or 5 yard gains, and then dink and dunk it. Whatever it is you got to do. Obviously, it'd be great to have those downfield passes, but if that's not what's working right now, don't push it. I mean, but then again, you see Lamar gun the ball downfield to Zay Flowers, and you're like, holy crap, like that was amazing. Ali got that 30-yard pass as well that I was talking about. It wasn't really a shovel pass, it was a throw. Anyway, regardless. There are those opportunities for big plays, but if they're not there, lean on the run, get those dink and dunk passes, and just go. Just move the chains, move the chains, move the chains.
Yep, and keep it in our hands. Please keep them off the field.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's the thing that you got to do with the Patriots as well. Like you just said, you got Drake May, they got Stephon Diggs. They got a really, really strong team that can put up a lot of points. And obviously you have to contain them. But I feel like the secondary has been playing really well together. Obviously, again, if a Woozy is out, that causes a big problem. But you still got Kyle Hamilton there, you got Marlon Humphrey, you got a lot of really good pieces that can stop this strong Patriots offensive line, can get in there, can rattle Drake May, make him make mistakes. So, it's going to be a very good game. And they need to win it.
We
They've
got to win. I think that we do good with pressure. I think we like being the underdog. We like being doubted. And I think, despite having not had the greatest pass rush for a while, to be honest, we're not great at putting pressure on quarterbacks. I think we can, with the pressure, like turn it out. Like last week, even though the Bengals didn't have the most clean of games, the defense really turned around. Like, let's talk about that final Carl Van Noy to Gilman thing. That was brilliant. And they can be smart and they can make those great plays. And I think that, as long as the defense kind of shows up and shows out, we should be good.
Yeah, absolutely. And some quick little like tidbits for the game too. So the turnover differential, the Ravens are currently at -4, which is 21st in the league. Not great. But the Patriots are 0. They're 13th. So they're not really taking the ball away either. So it's like, there's an opportunity there. And then total penalties, Ravens got 77, they're fifth in the league. The Patriots have 87, they're 12th. So, again, rattle their cages, make them make mistakes, and get that ball going. That's what you have to do.
Definitely. Especially this time of year when like nobody was like it's freezing cold out. Throw in the ball. I think that was the issue in the game on Sunday was they were saying something about their hands being like so cold that it's taking them a minute to warm up and like actually that's not a mistake that you want to be making. We need to just rely on that run and push it down the field.
Absolutely. I mean, following that, this is a brutal stretch for the Ravens. It's an absolutely brutal stretch to end the season. You got the Patriots, which we just discussed, and now following that, you have the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers are a very
I'm
good
scared about
team.
that. I'm gonna say it straight up as a Ravens fan, seeing Packers on the schedule, I was like, I'm not looking forward to that one.
But here's the thing though, is so they just suffered a major, major loss. I just touched on it a little
Yeah.
bit earlier, but Micah Parsons is out for the season. Micah Parsons is a disruptive player. Micah Parsons, you need to double team at times, sometimes triple team to keep him from getting to the quarterback. That's not to say that the Green Bay defense is done without Parsons, but you take that huge element out of the equation and maybe, Lamar Jackson won't be under duress as much. Maybe those design runs will work a little bit better. But again, you still got Jordan Love, you got, Christian Watson, there's a lot of weapons that they got over there, and it's going to be a very tough game to win. The Packers game, I'm also a little concerned about for the Ravens, especially because it's like you play a high flying offense in the Patriots, and then you go and play another high flying offense right after that in the Green Bay Packers. So, a little concerning there.
Yeah, and it's Lambeau Field in December. It's a tough environment to play in.
Absolutely. I mean, the good thing about it is they play the Patriots on Sunday and then they go and turn around and play the Packers. Well, it's not a good thing. They lose a day basically because it's technically a short week playing the
Yeah.
Green Bay Packers on Saturday. So there's no benefit there. But
Mhm.
again, the hope would be if a Woozy is kind of ruled out for the Patriots game, he's going to be ready to go for the Packers game.
Yeah, for sure, hopefully.
And then, as we stated and we brought up, their final opponent is the Pittsburgh Steelers, which again, they just lost to the Steelers. Not a good loss. It was too little too late in the fourth quarter. They couldn't get anything going. They didn't lose by a whole lot, 27-22. It's not a big loss, but again, I think it's
No.
because they just started too slow in the beginning of the game. And, as the Steelers have shown, they showed that against the Miami Dolphins. They only got a touchdown in the second quarter, but once they found their groove, they just couldn't be stopped. And I think that's the thing with Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers is if you do not stop them early and often, then you're kind of screwed because they like he just starts figuring out a way to carve up the defense and just go, go, go. And obviously that didn't exactly happen in that loss for the Ravens, but they just started too slow and they couldn't get any points on the board.
Couldn't get any points on the board and got points taken off the board unjustly, I'm gonna say
Right.
it. So we really do have to like be scoring, keeping the points up, not trailing. We hate to trail behind. We're not good at like catching up after we're down like quite a few scores.
Yeah, and like right here, they scored a field goal in the opening minutes, the first drive, but then they didn't score a touchdown until 5:49 left in the second. And so then, they caught up in the third, 2016, they were right there, but then the Steelers answered back, put them behind 9 points, and yeah, or is that 11 points? I can't count. And then the fourth quarter, like I said, it was playing catch up, but they couldn't catch the Steelers at that point. Steelers just had to lie and just lay on their defense and just stop the Ravens. That's exactly what they did. Again, you can't do that with any three of these opponents. You have to really put your foot on the gas, and you can't let up because these three offenses are clearly not the ones that are not going to stop. They can put points on the board. All three of them, as you have seen, the Patriots are going to be a tough opponent because they're angling for that top seed in the AFC. And so they're not going to obviously they're not a pushover regardless, but they're really going to be playing hard because they want that first round bye and that home field advantage. And also the same thing for the Packers. They're a little bit lower on the totem pole in the NFC, but that doesn't mean that they can't catch anybody else given the losses of those other teams to try to catch the NFC crown as well.
Yeah, there's stakes for all of our opponents. It's not like we got any like free gimme games coming up. Like Packers can take their division, can't they, by, catching up behind the Bears and the Steelers are gonna well, me and us and the Steelers are gonna be fighting off against it. If all goes to plan, we're gonna be fighting off against for the North. So, a lot on the line for all these teams.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too, is the Steelers could be fighting for the North in the same way that the Ravens could be fighting for the North in if they lose a game or two in this 3 game stretch. The issue is the Steelers don't really have the same level of opponents that the
Nope,
Ravens
they
have
got
down
it
the
easy
stretch.
over there.
Yeah, so well, okay, so 1-1, they have the Detroit Lions who are also angling for that playoff spot. So that's going to be a very good game. And there's a really strong possibility that the Steelers do not win that game. If they lose
No,
that
yeah.
game, they have the Browns next, which again, the Browns are not a great team in 2025, but they're still a divisional opponent and one that can play season ruiner. So you do have that benefit of okay, they have 2 of 3 games are divisional opponents. That's not the same situation for the Ravens down the stretch, but regardless, you still got the Patriots and Packers, which doesn't do you any good.
Yeah, no, the Browns can sneak up on you. They do it sometimes. They come out and they just play like a all out lights out game. And I think, they're a team that's like quite prideful. They don't want to go down without a fight. So I don't think there's going to be any giving up on them. So, I take my unkind words against the Browns back. They really can. They can pull it out the bag. And I'll be rooting for them. As a Ravens fan, it would be surreal to be rooting for them, but I will be.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But yeah, again, like, yeah, it's a divisional opponent. They can, like I said, like don't their only goal now is to play season ruiner. And if they can knock off the Steelers, I'm sure they're going to definitely try to do that. But so if the Steelers lose against the Lions and the Ravens beat the Patriots, both teams are at 8-7, and then
Yeah.
they have the Packers. The Ravens have the Packers, but then the Steelers have the Browns. So that those weeks can go any way, but if the Ravens need to win, they need to win out. Like we said, they just need to win out. That's the best way that they're going to be able to make the playoffs, win the AFC North crown, and just call it a day.
Yeah,
But it's going to be tough down the stretch. They have a really really tough final 3 opponents.
for sure, for sure.
I mean, what are your honest thoughts? Do you think that the Ravens can win out here? Do you think that they can win these final 3 games? Or are you of the mind that they might split them, maybe go 2-1? What do you think?
I'm feeling if we come out, don't make mistakes, come out hungry, really put the weight on, I think we can. We are a team that likes pressure. We're a team that does well under pressure. I think sometimes, the last couple years we've been superstars of the league and people have been really putting us up. And even when we were losing and we had a 1-5 record at the beginning of the season, people were putting us as Super Bowl contenders. And I think, that speaks to how strong our team is over the years. We've not missed the playoffs since 2021 when Lamar was out, I think. Um, and
I
so,
want to
it's
I want to
gonna
say
it's
it's 2016, but I could be wrong about that. Let me look it up real quick. Yeah.
I think we missed out because Lamar was out and then Huntley.
2021. 2021. Yeah. 2021, 8 and
Yeah, I
9.
thought so because yeah,
Yes. So there was
Lamar got
those.
injured in the last
Yep.
few games. It was rough.
Yeah, so there was those 3 years, 2018, 19, and 20. They went to the playoffs, and then 2021 was that outlier where they didn't go. And then obviously the last three seasons have been good. This is the season that the Ravens have had that adversity. But honestly, I think that's a really good thing for them. Like you said, they work well under pressure. And I think they may have forgotten, what it was like to have that kind of adversity, to have their back against the wall, and be like, okay, like how are you guys going to respond? Obviously, you've been winners. Like you just said, the Ravens have been winners for multiple seasons. Everyone's like, okay, if there's any team that's going to knock out the Chiefs, it's going to be the Ravens. But then they go belly up in the playoffs and, back to where they started. But they continually found a way to get to that, either the divisional round or they would get to the conference championship and then unfortunately lose. But this year has been different. You got the hamstring injury to Lamar Jackson. You got the multitude of injuries, our Darius Washington being out, Tavius Robinson being out. There's a lot going on. And now it's like, okay, now your backs are literally against the wall. You're 7-7, facing three really tough opponents. How are you going to respond?
Yeah, it's definitely been a rough season. It's definitely put us to a test in the way that we haven't had in the Lamar era. I think, there's going to be a lot to prove for them. And I don't think they're going to go down without a fight. Lamar shows up. He's the most exciting thing about being a Ravens fan. You never know what he's going to pull out of the bag. Like, just when you think a play's over, he picks up the ball and he finishes it. And I think that as long as he stays with his identity and sticks with that, then I think, I believe in my team. I think we got this.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in reality, they have to win out. I don't think there's a reality here where the Ravens can go 9-8, lose two or win two, lose one game, and they get into the playoffs. That's just the stark
No, I don't
reality
think
of
so.
how tight the AFC race has become. Especially like I just said, like the Texans are right there, the Colts are there, the Chargers and the Bills, which they're already 10-4. I highly doubt they're gonna lose their last three games. But you do have the kind of situations where maybe there's a situation for all those teams, rather the Chargers and the Bills, where they're able to rest their starters in Week 18, and that kind of maybe helps that helps the dynamic for the Ravens, but probably not. I mean, there's simply put, just win.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to rest on anyone else's, I think they want to get there on their own, and I think that they don't want any handouts. So best to just win out, don't focus on what's going around, don't focus on who you gotta lose. You just have to, all you can do at this point is win.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't really want to put a prediction on these final three games because it doesn't really matter. Like I just said, like yeah, I could be like, yeah, they have a better shot at beating the Patriots than they do the Green Bay Packers, but it doesn't matter. Like I said, if they go 2-1 in these last three games, they're probably not going to be able to go to the playoffs, which would suck. So it's like really,
Unless the Steelers lose out, which I would
yeah.
love.
No,
That
I
is,
mean, they're
that's a
not.
reality.
Then it is. I mean, next week we could be talking about just that. We could be talking about the fact that the Steelers lost, but I mean, again, they're going to be at 8-7. I think we have to wait a couple weeks to see, like, okay,
Yeah,
like if the Steelers get upset by the Browns, that can change everything. But the simplest
100%.
and best path for the Ravens to make the playoffs is to win out. They have a tough test in doing that against the Patriots, but the Patriots have clearly wilted against stronger opponents. The Ravens are a stronger opponent. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do worry, the Patriots are coming off of a divisional loss and the Bills are right on their heels. So they got a lot to play for too. I think both teams are going to be, I think it's going to be a really great game on Sunday.
Absolutely. That's it. This is the first episode of Roundtable Ravens. Thank you so much, Billy, for joining me. We will be back next week to talk all about what happened this weekend of football. Hopefully, that means that the Ravens won, the Steelers lost, and that AFC North race becomes even tighter because then we're going to have a lot more to talk about, but we'll see what happens.
Absolutely.